Our next speaker is one of our own, winner of our student pitch night, studying here at the FU. She invites us into one of those cycles, one that may feel familiar but is rarely examined closely, yet follows a rhythm not unlike the sequences and structures we study in math. Join me in welcoming Nehir Kırkgöz, who will talk about pi and the shape of progress.
3.14, 1592, 65358979323846264338327950. I'll stop there. Not because I forgot, but because pi doesn't end. And that's the whole point. My relationship with pi began in 7th grade when I entered the pi digit memorization contest. At the time, it was simple, almost playful. Every morning, I would sit down and ask myself the same question: how far can I go today? 10 digits? 20? 50? I would repeat the digits over and over again until they stopped feeling like digits, but started feeling like something else. Like a rhythm, something I could hold on to. And at the time, it felt like progress. Clear, measurable progress. If I knew more digits today than I did yesterday, then I was improving. It made sense. But what stayed with me was not the competition. It was a realization. No matter how many digits I memorized, there was always another one. Pi never ends. It never repeats. It just continues. And that's the beauty of it. I didn't stick much to that idea, but years later, it became really important. Because a couple years after that competition, something shifted. Math, which was a place where I once felt confident, started becoming a place where I felt pressure. I remember sitting in a classroom, staring at a test, and feeling this quiet tension grow in my chest. Not because I hadn't studied, no, but because in that moment, it felt like everything mattered. Every step, every answer, every mistake. And instead of thinking, let me try, I started thinking, what if I get this wrong? That is a very small shift, but it changes everything. Because when fear replaces curiosity, learning stops feeling like growth. It starts feeling like risk. Tests stopped being opportunities, they became forms of judgment. Mistakes stopped being part of the process, they became something to avoid. And slowly, quietly, almost without noticing, I began to feel stuck. Have you ever felt stuck? Have you ever worked harder than before and still felt like you weren't moving? Like you were putting in the effort, yet nothing was changing? Like no matter what you did, you ended up in the same place. That's what it felt like. Not like failing once, but like repeating the same moment over and over again. And that felt terrible. I would try, fail, start over again. And each time it felt less like progress and more like a loop, a cycle. And the worst thing about loops is that it feels like movement. You're doing something, you're trying, but you're not getting anywhere. You're just stuck in the same spot, returning to it over and over again. Now, in that deepest moment, I came back to pi. Not just a number we've all met in math class, but more so the idea that it represents. And when I thought about it again, something clicked. Pi is born from the most fundamental cycle in our lives, the circle. And circles are everywhere. Clocks measure time in circles, seasons return in cycles, planets orbit in patterns. Circles represent repetition. They represent coming back to where you started. And yet, that realization felt very odd. because there's a big contradiction. Pi is born from the circle, and yet it never repeats itself. Its digits go on forever, but there's no final point. There's no closure, there's no pattern. They just keep going and going. And suddenly that felt very familiar, because life works the same way. We all move through cycles in school, in relationships, in personal growth, and we find ourselves returning to similar moments over and over again. Trying, doubting, failing, learning, rebuilding. And when those moments reappear, it's very easy to think, I've been here before. I'm not making any progress. I'm stuck. But here's what we don't see in those moments. We're not the same person coming back each time. Each time we return, we bring something. A little more awareness, a little more resilience, a little more understanding. And that's the point. So even if the moment feels the same, looks the same, it isn't. What looks like a circle might not be a circle at all. It might be a spiral, something that loops but moves forward at the same time. And the funny thing about spirals is that while most people associate them with spiraling down, you can think of it as spiraling forward. When I began to think about it that way, something shifted. I stopped asking, why am I back here again? And started asking, what can I take from this moment? What can I take from now? Repeated moments do not mean we're failing. Repeated moments do not mean we're repeating the same thing over and over again. They mean we're spiraling forward. And that realization changed everything for me. Now, math certainly didn't become easy all of a sudden, but it changed. It became something that I could grow through instead of something I had to pressurize myself in. And the place where I once felt the most stuck became the place where I started to grow again, started to move again. In the mud of anxiety, I found Pi, and Pi was this lifesaver that I clung on to, which created this life craft for me. Now, over time, Pi stopped being something I actively studied and started becoming something that I simply noticed in my day-to-day life. It would reappear in small moments, different regulations, and each time it came back, it carried a different meaning for me, depending on where I was in my life. But it always reminded me that I was spiraling forward. So, let me take you back one more time. 3.1415926535897932384626433832795 I could keep going, but I'll never reach the end point. And that's the lesson, that's the point. There is no final version of you. There is no point in life where you figured everything out. There is no point where growth stops. There's always another step, another turn, another spiral. And that's what you should keep in mind. So, the next time you feel stuck, the next time life feels repetitive, the next time you start to think, I've been here before, stop. Take a deep breath and ask yourself, am I really stuck? Or am I just at the next turn of the spiral? Because none of you are going in circles. You're simply spiraling forward. Thank you.